Is this the end of DAOs? The end of DeFi 2.0? Or is this the last few steps before it reverses and rockets to the moon? Let's have a quick look at some historical DeFi projects and then compare them to what DAOs are currently doing. Is there any similarities? Let's take a look. Cue the intro. So, now I've made a few videos about DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations, and in particularly the Olympus DAO forks. You know, Olympus DAO, which is the first of its kind, a rebasing protocol where, you know, they accumulate huge treasuries and they have one token in the middle of it, which is essentially the next kind of stablecoin in a way, or more, the way I look at it is more like a gold-backed coin. You know, like back in the days before we have fiat currency, we had gold-backed currencies, you know, gold-backed dollar. And so you knew that when you had $1, you can take that $1, take it to the bank, and you get a bit of gold back. Same with these rebasing tokens or coins. They're backed by a certain number of cryptocurrencies, whether it's DAI or any other coins. And so when you have that one token, you know that it's backed by a certain amount in the treasury. This is a whole new revolution, hence why they call it DeFi 2.0. And I've made a few videos about that, so check out the library if you want to go into that. I've covered, you know, SPARTACUS DAO, Klima DAO, a bit of Olympus DAO, and some more. So definitely go and check that out. And it was doing fantastic for a little while, a few weeks maybe, and then the market started to correct. And every cryptocurrency, to be fair, is absolutely hemorrhaging money, losing a ton of value. So this is not, DAOs in particular aren't losing anything more necessarily. At the same time, it is quite a lot. You know, it's to a point where you think, okay, this is a bit scary. But why I'm making this video is because same way a lot of times when BTC is doing its thing, you can look at the prior cycles and see, okay, you know, around this time it was rallying, and around this time there was huge corrections. You know, those were about 5 or 6 big corrections in a year, for example, and you can kind of, you know, use the past as a reference to go forward. So with DAOs, you know, obviously it's new uncharted territory. However, we are calling this DeFi 2.0. So obviously there's DeFi 1.0. So we're going to look at DeFi 1.0, in particular the leader of the market and some of its competitors, Uniswap, and how did it actually perform in its life cycle up to this point. Let's have a look at Uniswap. Now this is the Uniswap chart, and it started with a huge bang in September, kind of similar to when these DeFi 2.0 projects have started. Well, some of the forks anyway. So September, massive. If you got in early, you would have made a killing off the bat from 30 cents all the way to $5. That would have been an easy 15x or even higher than that. So it started with a huge bang, 50x.
Really?
If you saw the top, unlikely a lot of people would have, but if you saw the top. Then what happened was an instant correction / bear market. So for the next, from its inception, September, for the next, essentially, we can say 2 to 3, September, 3 months, it was correcting / stabilizing. So initially it corrected 88% from the top. Right, now if you got in early, of course you're still up, but if you got in a bit later in this massive weekly candle, then you would have been down somewhat. You know, even if you got in, let's say you've heard about it a week later, you would have been down at least 50%. So even from this candle high, you're down 50%, and it's slowly correcting. It's still down 40% from this top. So what you got to bear in mind is, straight away off the bat, there was a correction coming in for 3 months. 3 months of correcting, and then of course it went to the moon once again, increasing about 1,000%, about 10x, about 8x here, and then to the very top 10-11x. Now the only thing that's a bit annoying is I know that Uniswap started before Sushiswap, but for some reason the data isn't available to actually see the beginning of Uniswap and compare it to Sushiswap. So Sushiswap actually goes back to the end of August, where Uniswap is about 2 weeks into September. So we'll have to take just use what we have. So Sushiswap actually started quite high at premium, around $15, and that's the price where Uniswap was at its peak. So potentially there's some crossover there. Uniswap started and then it forked Sushiswap, forked Uniswap, copied the code, and so that's probably why it started at the top, and instantly it corrected all the way down to about 60 cents. Yeah. So let's say you bought Sushiswap at this time, right? You bought it at this time, and instantly you're going to be down, let's say from this point, 90% or even 92% all the way to the bottom. So you would probably think this is the end of Sushiswap, this is the end of this DeFi 1.0, whatever it was called at the time. However, little do you know that was the last point at which it reversed. It was bottom, and then it went on a crazy run all the way to the top at $22. And that would have been a 34x. Now, of course, there are no guarantees. If your project is bleeding 90%, you're not necessarily going to be super confident in the project. But these are the kind of things we need to look at when looking at these new categories, this new DeFi 2.0. Yes, it's hemorrhaging like crazy, but if we look at DeFi 1.0, it did the same thing. It was at a very high price for Sushiswap anyway, and it bled all the way to the bottom, and then boom, right to the top. We had a look at 1 inch. 1 inch started a bit later, so that started at the end when Sushi and Uni were. No, it's okay. They were pumping. I think Uni maybe would have. Yeah, so Uniswap, started to stabilize at this point. It already lost a bit of value, but it started to stabilize, and at this point, that's when 1 inch launched, and it went to the moon. Massive increase from the bottom to the top. It's about 30x. Anywhere along those lines, you would have made about 5 to 20x. And then at the top, about February time, that's when it basically reaches top. There's a fake top right here, and then it starts to correct, and now we're here. So this is very important to look at historical data. And of course, they're not like for like, but it is an evolution from DeFi 1.0. So you can take some uses as a reference when looking at the DAOs, DeFi 2.0. Now, if we look at, I don't even want to look at these charts because it is a massive blow to the gut when you look at these charts. So if you look at these charts from the top, they've already lost 70%. This is Spartacus DAO, 70% of value. I got in around 150 to 180. So I'm still down, good, let's say 180. I'm still down 50, 60%. So now if we look back at DeFi 1.0, these were similar things that happened. It lost a ton of value, and then eventually it found a bottom, it started to reverse and go to the moon. So we can kind of take that as a reference when looking at these projects. Same with Olympus DAO. So this is the mover. This is the first type of these kind of tokens, these rebase tokens. So massive increase. It's corrected massively. It's already kind of done a cycle similar to Uniswap, found the bottom, and then slowly worked its way to the top, and now it's in another phase of correction. If it could hold this trend line, that would be amazing, but it's already broken through it, which is not good to see. Potentially it could be false breakout, so it could reverse and get back above. That would be a very, very bullish sign to see, although we're not holding our breath for that to happen. So if we just highlight that, pop that screen, so this would be a nice place also to get above resistance level. and then we have here as well. We can highlight these areas. But going back to the DeFi 1.0, again, they lost a lot of value, you know, in its first cycle. So these new protocols are going through similar things. Now WAGMI, now we want to get the proper chart. So WAGMI as well, one of the projects that I invested in, has lost a ton of value. So we want to find the tool that would give us, so from the top, 70%, right? And some of the DeFi 1.0 projects lost about 90% from the very top, right? So that's another thing to bear in mind. Ton of value lost, but this is the first innings of these projects. Now they're not all going to survive. Maybe half of these are gonna fail and just, you know, bottom out and then just dissipate into nothingness. But a lot of them will reverse and do what DeFi 1.0 did and just fucking go to the moon. Do you know what I mean? So just bear that in mind. And also the good thing about these projects is, as it's crashing, you're still making money through staking. You're still making high yields through staking. So eventually, when they start to turn around, you would have accumulated so much more money, so much more tokens, compared to if it was just crashing and then it reverses. You're still adding to your position, which is the beautiful thing about these projects. At the very least, as you're losing money, you're also gaining tokens. So when it reverses, hopefully, you will still be in a massive profit. So do bear that in mind. You're making a lot of money. You're making a lot of money at the same time. Now, of course, it is depending on the reversal. So that's the massive thing. So that'll be all for this video. To summarize, DeFi 1.0 lost a ton of value in its first innings. So we can use it as a reference for DeFi 2.0. Now, it's not going to be like for like, but it could be something similar. And at the same time, you're still making a ton of value. You're making a lot of money through staking. So when it does, hopefully, reverse, you will have added to your position and you'll be at a much better position when it does get back to previous levels, breaks even, and then goes into profit mode. So bear that in mind. Of course, it's not a guarantee. It can easily go to nothing, but you know, that's the game we're in. We're in the game of high risk, high reward. So let's get it. Let's keep going. See you in the next one. Peace.